Hello everyone. I want to start off by asking you an honest question. Have you ever felt so afraid of messing up that you have never pushed yourself outside of your comfort zone or tried new things? Because I have, several times in fact. And sometimes I find it hard to learn from them, to laugh at them, and to grow from them. But as I look back now, I find that I can learn from them, and I have. And I hope that by sharing a few of my own personal stories that you can too. The moments that I'm thinking of are moments of nervousness, of awkwardness, of feeling uncomfortable, embarrassed, maybe even feelings of fear, which I'm sure we've all experienced to some extent. You know, we've all had moments of feeling awkward or uncomfortable. But the most important thing is that you look back, reflect on it, and learn from it. And as I look back in nearly every one of the experiences that I'm thinking of, I can say with absolute confidence that I am glad that I did it. And that's because I learned that you can't live life without having pushed yourself to experience new things. Even if it means messing up or falling down, because in the end, those moments are what help you grow and make life worth living, honestly. To give you kind of an example of what I'm talking about, my first time mountain biking, I was extremely scared and nervous. I could barely be convinced to go, but my dad ended up pushing me into it because he said that it was going to be easy going. And it was in fact not. But when I first went, I saw these crazy hills. They were super steep and they were long, and there were rocks and sand dunes and all these obstacles that were in my way. And I was just scared. Like, I didn't even want to be there in the first place. But as I started to do it, I was able to just push myself outside of my head and focus on the moment, on what was right in front of me. And once I did that, the adrenaline just rushed over me and washed away all of that nervousness and all of that feeling of awkwardness, because I knew I did not look cool. I did not look cool at all. But once I just pushed myself outside of that self-consciousness, I was able to enjoy myself, and I was actually able to learn so much and get so much better just from pushing myself outside of my head. And that's the lesson that I learned from that day. And I have a similar story to it. It's a little bit, you wouldn't think it would be similar to mountain biking because it has to do with management. But this summer, I started as a manager, and boy, was it nerve-wracking. I was able to take on the challenge, and I am glad that I did. But in the moment, although I had worked at my job for 2 years, I was and am young and did not have the greatest self-confidence. So taking on the position of team manager at my cafe was not exactly a walk in the park, especially at the beginning. And like mountain biking, there were a lot of obstacles. We were short-staffed. We had new people coming in, but they didn't really know what they were doing. I was new myself to managing, so I was having to train new people and run a cafe with very little people, very little resources. And I just ran into things that were so difficult at the time. And although this may not seem exactly like mountain biking, I approached it in much the same way. I knew that most of what I was struggling with was my own mental blockade. I was afraid of messing up again. I was afraid of not doing a good job, not being enough for that position, even though I was trying my hardest. and it felt like if I didn't, I was a failure. So I had all these negative thoughts in my head. But like mountain biking, once I was able to just push myself outside of my own head and focus on what I was doing, I was able to learn so much from it. I was able to have fun, even if it was stressful with 0 people. And I really grew as a person, and I'm so glad that I pushed through it, because at one point I was considering quitting that position, that job, because I felt like I wasn't good enough. And in a way, this example is more difficult than the previous, because with mountain biking, there's more urgency there. You need to focus on what you're doing, otherwise you are going to fall off the bike. With managing, it's a lot of mental processes going on that you may not completely understand, but I was glad that I was able to apply what I had already learned to managing that helped me get through it. And lastly, I can think of a time when, also this last summer, that I tried playing in a recreational league for softball. Even though I had never played any sports at all, I had no experience. I frankly was not even interested in softball, but my boyfriend convinced me. And when I first started, again, I was not good. I was not confident at all. I wasn't motivated to do very well, because it was not a sport that I was even interested in. It did not start off on a good note. I was nervous. I was not doing very well, and the team that was supposedly easygoing, as far as my boyfriend was concerned, it was actually very competitive, so there was a lot of stress there as well. But one thing that I want to mention is that I did get better. I did. I worked on it, and I got better at the game, and everyone said that I was improving. But unlike the previous examples, I was not able to push myself outside of my own head. And so in my mind, all I could see was what was wrong. All I could see is that I wasn't as good as the other players, that I wasn't enough. Even though it was just supposed to be for fun, I could not bring myself to enjoy it because I was so stuck in my own mind. Even though I had all of these evidences and these people telling me that I was doing better, I could not believe it, and it was never enough for me. So that was a good lesson as well, because it taught me the other side of the story, that you have a choice. You can either push yourself outside of your own mind and just focus on the moment and enjoy the moment, or you can just be stuck in your own head, and no matter how good you do, it will never be enough. And that was a very, very important lesson for me. From these experiences, I learned that a very important lesson, that not trying is worse than trying and failing. Because at least when you fail, you learn something, you grow, you improve. But when you don't try, you don't go anywhere. You need to take steps in order to make progress. I was able to see the importance of pushing yourself outside of the box in order to achieve bigger things, have a life that's more enriched and enjoyable, and not be weighed down by your own fear of failure. So, next time opportunity calls, don't go straight to the automatic thought of, I wish I could, but I can't. You will only grow if you try. Thank you.